Driving feels like freedom, control, confidence in every turn of the wheel. But all it takes is one blink, one wrong move, and everything changes. Tonight we step into the aftermath of real car crashes that shocked entire communities, moments where speed pressure and human error collided. These stories aren't meant to scare you. They're meant to make you wonder how close any drive can come to disaster. Number 1. The Night the Sky Fell. Philadelphia, 2025. It began like any ordinary evening. A quick shopping trip, a familiar drive home. For 37-year-old Stephen Druitt, his fiancée Dominique Goods Burke, and their 9-year-old son, Ramesses. Nothing felt unusual about January 31st, 2025. The city moved as it always did. Traffic lights blinked. People laughed inside restaurants. No one sensed what was coming. Just minutes away, a medical transport jet lifted off into the dark sky, carrying 6 people on what should have been a routine flight. An 11-year-old patient returning home, her mother, 2 pilots, medical staff. Everything appeared normal until it wasn't. Witnesses later described a deep, unnatural rumble overhead. Then a flash. Then chaos. The aircraft lost control and came down in a residential neighborhood, sending shockwaves through entire blocks. Buildings shook, windows shattered, streets filled with confusion and panic. Amid that destruction, Stephen's car was caught in the path of the impact. Emergency crews arrived to a scene that looked unreal, frozen between noise and silence. Stephen never made it out. Dominique was pulled free, clinging to life, and rushed to intensive care. Their son Ramesses survived, but barely. What followed wasn't just a tragedy. It was a chain of consequences that would haunt everyone involved. A stranger ran toward danger without thinking. A family faced months of uncertainty and loss. And a city was left asking the same chilling question: how does a normal night turn into something no one ever forgets? This was not just an accident. It was a moment where fate, speed, and circumstance collided, leaving scars that time may never erase. Number 2. Sisters at the Edge. Maui, 2016. On May 29, 2016, the sun was beginning to set over Maui, painting the Hana Highway in gold. For most drivers, it was just another scenic stretch of road. For twin sisters Alexandria and Anastasia Duval, it would become the final chapter of a bond the world never fully understood. Witnesses noticed something disturbing long before the crash. The SUV stopped in the middle of the road. Hazard lights flashed. Inside, the sisters weren't talking. They were fighting, shouting, grabbing, hair being pulled. The argument was so intense that passing drivers slowed down, unsure whether to intervene. Then, without warning, the vehicle surged forward. The SUV accelerated straight toward the cliff's edge and disappeared, plunging more than 200 feet down the rocky slope. When first responders arrived, the scene was silent and surreal. Anastasia was gone. Alexandria, the driver, survived with serious injuries and was airlifted to the hospital. At first, it looked like a tragic loss of control, but the details refused to stay quiet. A teenage witness said he heard screaming and saw the struggle inside the car just seconds before it went over. Another person claimed Anastasia had yanked Alexandria's hair and pulled the steering wheel. Investigators later found strands of hair still clenched in Anastasia's hand. As the investigation deepened, a darker history emerged. The twins had lived turbulent lives: financial collapse, public arguments, alcohol-fueled confrontations, and a pattern of chaos that followed them across states. Friends and former partners described violent arguments that often happened behind the wheel, turning cars into pressure chambers of emotion. Prosecutors believed the crash was deliberate. The defense argued it was an uncontrollable struggle that spiraled out of control. In 2018, a judge ruled Alexandria not guilty, citing insufficient proof of intent. But for many, the verdict didn't end the story. Because on that road in Maui, one question still lingers. Was it an accident born of rage or a moment when control was lost long before the cliff ever appeared? Number 3. No brakes on I-20. Texas, 2025. June 28, 2025 was supposed to be the final stretch of a long day on the road. For the McCallum family, Interstate 20 in Kaufman County was just a line on the map leading home to Fort Worth. Inside their Ford F-150 sat 3 generations talking, resting, thinking about nothing more than getting home safely. Behind the wheel was Zabar McCallum, steady and reliable. Beside him, his wife Christian, known to everyone as Sean, filled the cab with warmth and laughter. In the back were their children, Case, a promising high school football star, and Evan, a college student with her whole future ahead. Riding with them was Billy, the family's 79-year-old grandfather, returning from a funeral earlier that day. At the same time, a fully loaded semi-truck was barreling down the same highway. Its driver had been on the road too long. According to investigators, exhaustion took over. There was no evasive maneuver, no sign of braking. The impact was immediate and overwhelming. The pickup was crushed, triggering a chain reaction involving multiple vehicles. Emergency crews rushed in, declaring a mass casualty scene. But for most inside the truck, help came too late. Zabar, Christian, their son Case, and Billy were all gone in an instant. Only Evan survived. She was airlifted to a Dallas hospital facing life-altering injuries and a recovery that would stretch far beyond the physical. Another driver, Nicole Gregory, lost her life in the same collision, expanding the reach of the devastation. As the shock settled, questions began to surface. Why was the truck still on the road? Why hadn't the driver stopped? Records soon revealed a troubling history of violations tied to the trucking company involved. For the McCallum family's community, the crash became more than a loss. It became a warning. A reminder that when exhaustion meets speed, the consequences don't come slowly. They arrive all at once. Number 4. A birthday that never ended. New York City, 2017. March 16, 2017 was supposed to be unforgettable for all the right reasons. Amanda Miner had just turned 21. Home from college, she celebrated with family laughter and a Broadway show glowing with promise. The night felt safe, familiar, full of plans that hadn't even begun yet. After midnight, Amanda accepted a ride back to Brooklyn. She slid into the back seat of a gray Infiniti, trusting the people inside. Behind the wheel sat Stefan Hoy, an off-duty city traffic agent. To Amanda, it was just a ride home, nothing more. What she didn't know was how much had already gone wrong. On the Williamsburg Bridge, where traffic usually crawls, the car surged forward at an alarming speed. The city lights blurred. The road narrowed. In seconds, control was lost. The vehicle struck multiple barriers and tore apart under the force, scattering debris across the bridge. First responders arrived to a scene that felt unreal. Amanda never made it home. As investigators pieced together the night, a disturbing picture emerged. Hoy had been drinking heavily for hours. His blood alcohol level was well above the legal limit. Even worse, witnesses and data showed the car had been traveling at more than 3 times the posted speed limit. In court, Amanda's family faced the man they trusted with her safety. Her mother struggled to speak through tears. Her sister collapsed under the weight of what was gone forever. Hoy apologized, calling it a mistake, but the judge was clear some choices can't be undone. Hoy was sentenced to prison, But the punishment didn't stop there. He would carry the memory of that night for the rest of his life. And for Amanda's family, the celebration that marked her adulthood became the moment time stopped on a bridge where one reckless decision erased a future that had barely begun. Number 5. The road that never saw them. Victoria, Australia. Just after midnight in June 2023, a red Toyota Corolla slipped into the darkness of a quiet country road in Victoria. Inside were 5 people from the same small town, friends, teenagers, and one familiar adult face caught somewhere between boredom, confidence, and late-night momentum. It felt harmless, temporary, like nothing could happen out there. Hours passed. No calls, no messages, no headlights returning home. When daylight finally revealed the scene, the silence was devastating. The car had left the roadway and struck a tree at extreme speed, hidden from view in the early morning light. By the time help arrived, 4 lives were already gone. Only one teenage girl remained, barely holding on. Investigators found details that made the loss even harder to accept. Inside the vehicle were handwritten notes, simple reminders about staying safe and caring for others. Words meant to protect left behind, in cruel contrast to what followed. Digital evidence later surfaced, capturing voices asking about speed, celebrating numbers no road was built to handle. As the community gathered in shock, stories of who they were began to surface. A 14-year-old with her entire future ahead. A teenager proud to march in uniform. Another who loved music bikes and his younger siblings. Parents replayed final conversations. One mother remembered saying goodnight, never knowing it would be the last time. Questions lingered long after the wreckage was cleared. Who was driving? Why was the car moving so fast, and how many warnings were ignored before that road claimed everything? For the town, the crash became more than a loss. It became a reminder that some nights don't announce their danger, and some roads remember what people wish they could forget. Number 6. The day one child was left behind. West Yorkshire, 2024. July 21, 2024 began quietly in West Yorkshire. A simple family walk. Laughter. 2 young girls racing ahead, impatient to get home. Shane Roller and Shannon Morgan buckled their daughters Ruby and Lily into the back of the car and pulled onto the A61, a road they had traveled countless times before. Nothing about the moment felt dangerous. One child wasn't there. 11-year-old Poppy had stayed behind with a family friend, asking to spend a little more time playing. It was a small decision. An ordinary one. No one imagined it would be the choice that spared her life. Coming the other direction was a motorcycle carrying a married couple out for a ride. Witnesses later said the bike moved to overtake another vehicle. Seconds later, the distance vanished. Metal met momentum. The impact stopped traffic and froze the afternoon in disbelief. When emergency services arrived, the scene told a story no one wanted to hear. 6 lives were gone. The parents, their 2 young daughters, and the couple on the motorcycle. A stretch of road had erased 2 families at once. Back in Barnsley, the phone rang. A knock at the door followed, and suddenly one little girl's world collapsed without her ever being there to see it happen. A family friend had to find the words no adult is prepared to say. As news spread, strangers gathered. Flowers lined the roadside. Candles flickered where cars slowed in silence. Messages poured in from people who had never met the family, yet felt the weight of what was lost. In the days that followed, support poured toward Poppy. Funds were raised, counseling arranged, schools stepped in. But nothing could replace the absence waiting for her at home. Because sometimes danger doesn't arrive with warning signs or sirens. Sometimes it comes quietly, leaving one child alive to carry the memory of everyone else who didn't make it home. Number 7. Speed after midnight. Las Vegas, 2021. It was the quiet hour after midnight in Las Vegas when the Strip finally exhales and the streets thin out. For 23-year-old Tina, the night felt routine. She had just dropped off a friend and was driving home minutes from the house she shared with her family. Her dog Max had been part of the evening, a small comfort in an otherwise ordinary day. Behind her, something very different was approaching. A high-powered sports car surged down the boulevard at a speed the road was never meant to hold. Witnesses would later say it appeared out of nowhere, closing the distance in seconds. There was no time to react, no space to escape. The collision was violent and immediate. Tina's vehicle was struck from behind and pushed forward as flames and debris filled the air. Drivers nearby froze, unable to process what they were seeing. By the time help arrived, the outcome was already decided. Tina never made it home. Max was gone too. As investigators reconstructed the night, a disturbing pattern emerged. The driver responsible had been drinking for hours. Data showed extreme speed, far beyond anything considered survivable. Videos from earlier that evening revealed laughter, confidence, and complete disregard for consequences. Tina's story made the loss even harder to accept. She had come to the United States as a child refugee escaping instability overseas. She worked hard, built a future, and was days away from a major life milestone. All of it vanished in a matter of seconds. The case sent shockwaves through the city. Murals appeared near the crash site. Vigils were held. And one question echoed again and again: how many warnings does speed ignore before it takes everything? Because after midnight, when roads feel empty and rules feel distant, danger doesn't announce itself. It arrives fast, and it doesn't give second chances. Number 8. The icy turn no one warned about. West Yorkshire, 2025. Just after dawn on January 12, 2025, West Yorkshire was locked in a deep freeze. The temperature had dropped below zero, coating roads with invisible ice that turned every curve into a gamble. At 6:20 a.m., an ordinary white Volkswagen Golf rolled along Weldon Road, a stretch locals had whispered about for years. In the passenger seat sat 18-year-old Taylor Lupton, a new father, a young man known for his humor, kindness, and the way he could lift a room just by walking into it. He had plans waiting for him, plans that would never get the chance to unfold. Witnesses later said the moment came without warning. The car swerved violently, as if pulled by something unseen. It jumped the pavement, tore through a fence, and slid down a steep embankment, vanishing from the road entirely. When it finally stopped, it was hidden deep inside an industrial tank below street level, invisible to passing traffic. By the time emergency crews located the vehicle, the scene felt unreal. Taylor had been thrown clear. The two people traveling with him survived and were taken to the hospital. Within hours, they were arrested on suspicion of dangerous driving, intensifying the questions surrounding what truly happened on that frozen road. Neighbors gathered in disbelief. One man recalled finding a license plate on the sidewalk, assuming it was nothing until the truth surfaced. Flowers and handwritten notes soon covered the area. Messages from friends spoke of laughter hours earlier, of smiles that vanished before sunrise. Investigators later confirmed what many feared. The road had no warning signs, no barriers, no protection from the ice. Taylor was gone before his daughter's first birthday. And for those who pass that bend today, the silence carries a warning. Some roads don't forgive mistakes, especially when danger hides where no one thinks to look. Number 9. The race that had no finish line. Odessa, 2019. On a Sunday night in March 2019, the streets of Odessa, Ukraine were nearly empty. Traffic was light. The city felt calm. Inside a luxury SUV, Victoria was riding in the passenger seat, unaware that the next few minutes would redefine everything. She was a mother, a businesswoman, and someone who had already built a full life worth protecting. Witnesses later reported 2 vehicles accelerating side-by-side, engines rising, adrenaline, pushing reason aside. What began as a brief challenge turned into a reckless sprint through city streets never designed for speed. Streetlights blurred, intersections disappeared too fast to process. Then control vanished. The SUV struck a parked vehicle, spun violently, and slid across the roadway before slamming into a utility pole carrying high-voltage lines. In seconds, the night was swallowed by chaos. By the time emergency services reached the scene, there was nothing left to save. Security cameras captured the entire sequence. Investigators replayed the footage frame by frame, watching confidence turn into catastrophe. The evidence pointed to excessive speed and a complete loss of judgment, the kind that leaves no room for correction. As details emerged, the loss felt even heavier. Victoria left behind children who would grow up with questions no one could answer. Friends spoke of her discipline, her ambition, and the way she balanced responsibility with warmth. She was not chasing danger that night. She was simply in the wrong place when it arrived. The crash sent shockwaves through Odessa. Discussions about illegal street racing resurfaced. Warnings were issued. But for those who had already lost someone, the lessons came too late. Because when speed becomes a game, the road doesn't play along. It waits silent, unforgiving, until the moment no one can outrun. Number 10. The life that never moved forward. Saudi Arabia. In July 2025, a single announcement rippled far beyond Saudi Arabia. The man known around the world as the Sleeping Prince had finally passed away. He was 36 years old, but his story had stopped moving 2 decades earlier. Born into one of the most powerful royal families in the kingdom, Prince Al-Walid's future once felt untouchable. Discipline, prestige, expectation. By his teens, he was already training abroad, preparing for a life shaped by duty and leadership. Everything seemed mapped out until one night erased it all. In 2005, a serious car crash left the young prince with catastrophic brain injuries. He was flown home and placed on life support, where he would remain for the next 20 years. Machines breathed for him. Tubes sustained him. His body lived, but his eye opened. Doctors warned there was little hope. Over time, some urged his family to let go, but his father refused. Day after day, year after year, he stayed at his son's side, holding his hand, whispering prayers, decorating the hospital room for holidays, as if life might restart at any moment. In 2020, a short video appeared online showing the prince seemingly moving his fingers. Hope surged across the world. Millions believed a miracle had begun. Doctors later explained it was only a reflex, but belief didn't fade. People kept watching, waiting. And then quietly, it ended. There was no dramatic moment, no sudden change. Just the closing of a chapter defined by patience, faith, and a refusal to surrender to finality. Funeral prayers filled the mosque. Crowds gathered. The name Sleeping Prince trended one last time. This wasn't a story about speed or recklessness. It was about how a single moment on the road can steal not just a life, but time itself, leaving loved ones suspended between hope and loss for decades. Number 11. The promise that never made it home. Florida, 2025. February 9th, 2025 was supposed to be a turning point. Daniel Waterman was only 22, but his life suddenly felt bigger than himself. Just hours earlier, he had learned he was going to be a father, a daughter, a future he already imagined back home in New York. That night, Daniel rode along Interstate 95 with his girlfriend, Leah Mumby. Super Bowl weekend buzzed around them, but inside the car, tension quietly grew. A simple text message sparked an argument. Voices sharpened. The mood shifted from celebration to something far more dangerous. Daniel later said he felt it before it happened. The speed increased, the road blurred. When the car slowed, he tried to get out, but couldn't. Then came the moment that stayed with him forever. Leah looked at him and said she didn't care what happened next. The accelerator went down. The car surged forward and left the roadway colliding with a tree at extreme speed. Both survived the impact, but Daniel's injuries were devastating. He was placed into a coma as his family rushed to Florida hoping he would wake. Weeks turned into months. Slowly, Daniel regained consciousness. He couldn't speak, but his mind was clear. When investigators returned, Daniel wrote everything down. The argument, the fear, the sudden acceleration. Evidence from the crash scene supported his account. No signs of braking, no attempt to slow down. Charges followed, but Daniel never recovered. After 8 months of fighting, Daniel Waterman passed away on October 8, 2025. He never met his daughter. Now his family is fighting to raise the child he dreamed of holding, determined she will know who her father was. Because sometimes the most dangerous place isn't the road ahead, but the seat beside you. Number 12. The second no one could react. Russia, 2025. On July 5, 2025, the road outside Moscow felt calm and predictable. Ksenia Alexandrova sat in the passenger seat of a Porsche Panamera riding home with her husband after an ordinary trip. Just 4 months earlier, they had married. Photos from their wedding showed a woman glowing with confidence and plans still unfolding. Ksenia had lived many lives in one. Model, beauty pageant finalist, university graduate in finance and psychology. By her late 20s, she was working as a therapist, helping others navigate fear and trauma. Her future felt balanced, intentional, secure. Then came a single second. An elk burst onto the roadway without warning. There was no time to brake, no space to avoid it. The animal smashed through the windshield, striking Ksenia directly. The car's safety systems never activated. The moment passed before anyone could understand what had happened. Drivers stopped. Help arrived quickly. Ksenia was rushed to one of Moscow's top trauma centers and placed in intensive care. She slipped into a coma. For days, her husband stayed beside her, watching monitors, holding her hand, waiting for signs that she might return. She briefly opened her eyes. She couldn't speak. Then her condition worsened. Complications followed: severe inflammation, infection, a body pushed beyond its limits. Doctors fought to stabilize her, but the damage continued to spread. 5 weeks after the crash, on August 12, 2025, Ksenia Alexandrova passed away. She was 30 years old. There was no recklessness, no argument, no bad decision, just a random encounter on an open road. Ksenia's story is a reminder that danger doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it arrives silently from nowhere and changes everything before anyone has time to react. Number 13. Wrong way at dawn. New Jersey, 2025. Before sunrise on March 7, 2025, Route 70 in Lakewood, New Jersey was almost empty. The world was still half asleep. Edwin Borea, 66 years old, drove east in his Mazda, likely thinking about nothing more than another ordinary morning ahead. Edwin's life had already been extraordinary. Decades earlier, he had represented the Philippines on the Olympic stage, swimming among the best in the world. Later, he built a quiet, meaningful life in the United States, raising children, welcoming grandchildren, singing in church, staying active long after his competitive days were over. That morning, none of that mattered. Out of the darkness came a Cadillac moving the wrong way. Fast. Far too fast. Investigators later confirmed the vehicle had traveled more than 2 miles against traffic at over 100 miles per hour. There was no warning. No time to react. The collision sent shockwaves across the highway, triggering a chain reaction involving multiple vehicles. First responders rushed in as flames and debris scattered across the lanes. Edwin was pulled from the wreckage with critical injuries and airlifted to the hospital. For 11 days, his family gathered around his bed, hoping the strength that once carried him through Olympic waters would carry him again. But on March 18th, Edwin Borea passed away. The driver responsible survived and now faces serious charges. For Edwin's loved ones, the loss cut deep. A man who had trained his entire life for precision and discipline was taken by chaos he never saw coming. Because sometimes danger isn't speeding toward you from ahead, but racing straight at you on the wrong side of the road before the day even begins.